we got on so well, we gelled so well. That first kind of few months working together in that super dynamic, stressful, tight environment just kind of
gelled us perfectly.
Just molded us together into this thing that just didn't seem to even have an ability to get pulled apart.
Hello and welcome back, or to separate bathrooms.
Yeah, I'd never thought of saying that. Welcome back, or two.
Yeah.
This could be the first podcast.
That's right.
First episode you've heard. I'm Cameron Daddo.
You are. I'm Elle Daddo.
Was that a bit forceful?
No, I liked it.
Direct.
I liked it. It was good.
Well, I was actually thinking
I believed every word of it.
Oh, good. Well, it was the truth.
It is, honey. It's exactly who you are. So wherever you're listening, if you're walking the dog or cleaning the house or
Driving the car.
Walking
through the bush.
That's right. Where we all listen to our podcast. We have a ripper for you today. We have Sophie, Ballagh and Ewan, Blyth. Incredible adventuring couple.
Yeah, they're outdoor professionals. They take expeditions. They take people on outdoor adventures. And they've made a documentary. It's called Isolation. It's a documentary as they go through the Antarctic for 2 weeks in their own kayaks.
Yeah, just the two of them in sea kayaks. We're going to hear all about it. And they've had a lot of experience, these two, in small, dark, damp, tiny rooms, just like a bathroom.
They're not going to feel uncomfortable at all.
I don't think so. I think they're going to slide right into our bathroom and it is going to be like, wow, here we are.
We feel really good in this space.
Absolutely.
It's damp, dark and cold.
Yes.
Let's get to know them better. Sophie, Ballagh and Ewan, Blyth. Hi, guys.
Hi.
Good afternoon.
Ewan and Sophie, I'm really excited to talk to you both. I am a self-confessed documentary nerd. I love documentaries so much, particularly about nature, particularly about adventures. So your story is just lit me up. But first, we really want to get to know you guys a little bit more. Can you just explain to us how you guys met and what's the story?
Well, just your usual love story.
Do tell.
Met on a Russian ship in Antarctica?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, as you do.
Yeah.
Where was it Russian to?
But a boom.
Bucket of fish.
We both had the opportunity, we both got offered the opportunity to work in Antarctica as expedition guides. Funnily enough, in the same season, we both went down independently from each other, didn't know each other existed, and we ended up on the same ship, bobbing around in Antarctica,
Wow.
Russian ship, and we ended up being co-guides.
So you were taking people out onto ice from the Russian ship? Is that what you were both touring, taking people on tours?
Yeah. Yep. We were a part of an expedition team on board this small expedition vessel. Our predominant role was to lead the sea kayak program. So whenever we could, we would take a small group out kayaking amongst icebergs and penguins and whales.
Yeah.
And whatever else kind of was going on that day, driving boats, leading little hikes.
But yeah, paying tourists. It's a kind of a
Was past tense.
Past tense.
Yeah, currently.
Pretty booming part of the tourism, expedition and adventure tourism market. Was travel to Antarctica.
How long was that time on that boat?
Each trip varies between 10 to 20 odd days long, depending on the itinerary of the voyage. And we as staff would have our contracts for the season, and sometimes we'd work as much as 4 or even 5 months, but sometimes as little as 2 or 3 months. And you're on. It's game on. You get on the ship and there's not a waking hour that you're not at work. So
that's what it was. It was several months on board this Russian vessel.
Yeah, you get to know each other pretty well.
Yeah. That's pretty intimate, pretty quick, isn't it?
Very quick.
And then actually we moved in and shared a cabin fairly early on in our relationship before I guess it was even deemed a relationship.
Right.
I guess maybe we can thank our lucky stars. There was an uneven number of male to female staff, and they normally, pair us up. There's two per cabin on this vessel. And so the hotel manager said, well, how about we just put you together? That would be easier, right? And we didn't quite.
We thought no one knew about our relationship.
No one knew. It was very early.
Oh,
And
how
so-
sweet.
I didn't even know.
And so from then on, we're pretty much living in a cubicle, like
a bathroom.
smaller than a bathroom, smaller than our current bathroom, pretty much.
Wow.
And we spent like the first few months of our relationship in this matchbox and working and living and
In a pretty extreme environment, obviously, and a pretty very dynamic kind of working relationship, working kind of environment.
Mm.
Gosh, talk about trial by fire. Imagine just putting any regular boyfriend and girlfriend or boyfriend, girlfriend inside a metal box on a Russian ship and go, okay, now get along.
Yeah. And did anyone else speak English, or were you guys the only two?
No, lots. Like, so the entire the vessel was a Russian flag vessel, and it came with Russian crew. There was 42 of them,
Right.
And they spoke all varying levels of English,
Yep.
which was great. We learned some Russian, but the rest of the expedition crew and all of our guests were English.
Oh, okay.
And it was actually that ship and that particular tour season that you were approached to make this documentary. Is that right?
Yeah,
Correct.
absolutely. So we got offered the opportunity by our boss at the time, actually, which is quite amusing. He suggested to us on our kind of mid-season break, where we just needed a couple of weeks to decompress from ship life, that, if the ship could drop us in Antarctica somewhere with our kayaks, and we could
Get picked up a few weeks later.
paddle around and get picked up a couple of weeks later. And so, of course, every polar guide would just jump at that opportunity.
Hmm.
We hadn't been together really all that long when that got put to us, and we didn't even. I didn't even think twice about saying no. And it wasn't until kind of much later after the expedition we actually recounted that and realised we were very, very new in our relationship when we agreed to this expedition.
And to say yes to doing something like that as outdoor professionals, assessing risk, one of the largest things is your team and who you do this sort of thing
Right.
with. And I guess very subconsciously, and I didn't question our relationship or Yui and his skills or anything like that. We'd obviously been working together long enough, like a month, and knew each other.
A month seems like about
a
3
year,
years.
yeah.
Yeah, right.
Right.
Yeah, it's a weird time frame. And we had the discussion with our boss. We went back to our little matchbox cabin and we said, did he say that? And I think so. And is that something you want to do? And it was like, yeah. Well, is that something you want to do with me? Yeah. So we walked right back down the corridor and said, look, let's make that happen. And yeah.
Fantastic. Well, from the moment that you then said yes to the moment that you were actually in your kayaks for those 2 weeks, how long a prep time did you have?
Ooh, that was
It was meant to be about a 1 year. So that was scheduled for the following Antarctic season, so that following summer. However, many things changed. And I guess to the benefit, because that allowed us actually then to set up this idea of filming it and creating a documentary.
Right.
That was kind of an afterthought and something that happened in the later part. But it was pretty much 12 to 18 months.
lots of planning, as you
Lots
can
of
imagine, lots of
planning.
preparation.
Document.
The right gear, putting all the, getting the approvals in place and, all that sort of stuff.
What do you do in that prep time? Are you just going over all the what ifs and then the what ifs if the what ifs happen and then the what ifs if the what ifs if the what ifs happen? Like, is that sort of a mental thing that you do, or were you physically already trained for it?
Ellie, it sounds like you've been on an expedition before.
Oh.
Yeah.
I wish.
That's exactly
Nailed
what
it.
we did.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Lots and lots of mental time and energy thinking about the what ifs and what could go wrong and how can we minimize that or eliminate that risk from happening. And if it does, what do we do then? What do we need with us? And so lots of that mental time and time together talking about it, but also then documenting it, and you need it in some kind of like spreadsheet format and blah, blah.
Right.
Yeah, and finding the right gear. It's not
Yeah.
necessarily easy to find polar-specific equipment, but even more specific, like polar-specific equipment that's
Multi-day.
ready for sea kayaking. most polar gear is for people, skiing to the South Pole, skiing to the North Pole, as opposed to trying to shove things in a sea kayak. And
I was going to say, it's got to fit into a very small cylinder, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's a tiny wee thing, isn't it?
Exactly. So, there was a lot of time spent prepping
making
gear.
sure everything.
Making our own gear. We had to make some. We just couldn't. You can't buy it. You can't find it. So we just made it.
Wow, that must have been was that exciting though, doing that together?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, then you've got to go test it.
Right. And where were you based at that point? Were you back in Tassie?
For a chunk of time before the season started, we based ourselves in New Zealand at my family's place in New Zealand. And it's funny, my mum, if you ask her, she'll recall opening the fridge or the freezer and seeing some weird object or a camera or something in the freezer.
Right.
What is this doing? I'm like, I'm just testing the glue to see if it pulls apart when it's frozen. We're testing how long the batteries of the camera run when they're in a fridge, because that's where we'll be. All
these sorts of things.
I mean, at that point, your relationship, again, it's still fairly new, though. It's also in that gorgeous sort of first year, everything's wonderful. I mean, you couldn't exactly split up, could you? Because that would have ruined the whole expedition as well. I mean, not that you wanted to, but it's sort of was that any ever added pressure that you're like, geez, we can't break up now?
That's an interesting question, Elle.
We've never been asked that, and I've never thought about that. But you're right, that would have really put a spanner in the works.
It would have, wouldn't it?
It's taken it to a whole new level.
Yeah. Well, that didn't happen, so that's good.
No, that didn't cross my mind.
No, not at all.
Well, you had a larger thing to work towards, So I guess it wasn't even on your radar because it was all about what you were moving towards.
Yep.
I guess at that point, I don't think we'd even really discussed our relationship so much. We got on so well, we gelled so well. That first kind of few months working together in that super dynamic, stressful, tight environment just kind of
gelled us perfectly.
Just molded us together into this thing that just didn't seem to even have an ability to get pulled apart.
The name of the documentary is called Isolation, as in I-C-E-olation. And there's a description here. It says, 2 people took an opportunity to go beyond adrenaline-based desires and the pleasing of engorged egos and instead explore as much within themselves as explore the magical ice-littered waterways of the Antarctic Peninsula. Oh, it's such a beautiful explanation. And what caught me is and instead explore as much within themselves as explore the magical ice-littered waterways of the Antarctic Peninsula. What do you mean by that? What happened on this 14-day journey for you both?
I just got goosebumps when you read that out. That was awesome.
We wrote that to try and capture the essence of this journey, and it was really a journey. We didn't, we didn't go out to produce some Red Bull kind of extravaganza.
We're not the first, we didn't go the furthest, we're not the fastest. It was really just this amazing opportunity that we had to say yes to.
Yeah.
And then as we got into it, we realised that Antarctica is such an incredibly special place, and anyone who's spent any time there will I'm sure, recount that it's some almost kind of spiritual realm about this place.
Extremely powerful and humbling.
And that's on a Russian ship with a bunch of people around. And so what we found was that was just heightened ever so much when you're just there solo, just the 2 of us.
No engine.
So quiet. Right. Just this pace is surreal and powerful.
Again, goosebumps.
And that's, I guess that's part of that. It makes you maybe not question, but just really think at a deeper level.
Yeah, without all the noise, just the beauty of the quietness. It must have been incredible. It must be one of those experiences to even put words to it is quite challenging, because how do you explain something so stunning as that?
Yeah, many people have asked us over the years, our family and friends, and to try and explain Antarctica to them. We just say you have to go. it into words. And we tried through that documentary to capture it, but even then,
it still doesn't do it justice.
Yeah.
How many hours in the kayak did you spend each day?
It really varied. Some days not too many. There were just too many things to see, and we wanted to do some filming. We'd get out and hike up a hill. And then other days, we'd plan for 6 or 7 hours. But finding campsites,
we'd still be paddling 9 hours later.
To put your tent in Antarctica is not easy.
Really? Why is that?
We knew that. Well, a lot of the coastline you see is glaciated.
Fully glaciated.
The glaciers come down in the mountains, they terminate at the water's edge.
So it's a big device.
Yeah. And where they terminate at their edges, there's often rocks and things, but not necessarily you can get out of your kayak there.
And or if you can, there's nowhere to put your tent.
Right.
So there's a few factors. You need to be high enough above the water level. So they talk about tsunamis, like iceberg calving tsunamis, even many kilometres away. If a big calving event where ice falls into the water, it displaces the water and it travels a long distance. And then if you're at the shoreline where it becomes shallow, that wave picks up and throws a big tsunami onto land. And so you need to be high enough out of that potential danger. You've got to look above you and make sure there's no hanging glaciers that could dispatch ice from above.
Right.
And you've got,
It needs to be flat, ideally.
And flat to put a tent, and you've got to actually be able to get out of your kayak onto the rock. And then often where those places are is where penguin colonies are, because they come out of the water to breed in the summer months. And for several reasons, one, some environmental kind of permitting reasons, but two, just for the sake of to not smell them and hear them all night long, we try not to camp at penguin colonies. So, finding a campsite, difficult.
There's actually an image on the trailer that I saw, and that explains it now, because there's this image of where you've planted your tent. I know that's the wrong technical word. You don't pitched. That's pitched. You don't plant a tent. Shows you how much of an adventurer I am. You've pitched your tent, and it's like it's on the edge of this kind of overhanging bit of cliffy thing, and I'm looking at it going, why on earth would they have put a tent there? But now you've explained it, I can understand, because that's probably the one spot you could find, because it was elevated and somewhat flat. I think there was a tiny slope to it, but nothing hanging above you. So, wow, amazing.
Yeah, one word springs to mind there, Ali, and that's desperation.
I worked it out because I think I got the facts right. I think you both drank about 9.5 cups of tea a day while you were on your adventure. Because I think it was some incredible number of tea bags that you went through, or tea that you went through. I mean, did you get like a sponsor for tea? I mean, you guys are influencers. It's like if I was Tetley Teas, I'd be like, these are the people you need on your commercials, on your cover of your tea boxes, everything.
So we didn't think about it.
We should have engaged you for sponsorship.
Come to me next time. I'll think of some ideas.
We did drink copious amounts of tea and hot chocolate.
Yeah.
Just anything hot. You just can't drink. You can't drink water to hydrate. It's just too cold. And you need to stay hydrated.
Yeah.
And so really, you've just got to have hot fluids and
lots of it.
And so the melting ice and boiling water regime was consistent.
Was there ever a moment in those 14 days where you just went, oh, crap, maybe this wasn't such a good idea?
Day 2.
Day 2. What happened on day 2?
I wasn't prepared. It's funny. We'd worked in Antarctica, so I knew how changeable and wild and gnarly it could be. And Elle, you talked about preparation, physical preparation. We didn't train as such. Our preparation was all mental, risk, logistics, equipment. We didn't have time, and I consider myself pretty fit and strong. But you get into this guiding complacency where we're not actually that fit and strong. We paddle at la pace, and we don't go very far. We just take lots of great photos. And I wasn't that fit, apparently. Day 2, we got slammed with this hectic headwind and wind against tide, which creates little cresting waves.
Yeah.
And each time these kayaks were so loaded, neither of us had ever paddled such laden kayaks. We were sitting like below that waterline, pretty much. It was
Scary.
I've never been in such a heavy kayak. And each wave that you hit, it just comes over the bow of your kayak, you stall, you lose any form of momentum, and the wind's trying to push you backwards in a way. And so, and again, nowhere to pull out because we've got a few kilometres of ice cliff until we can get out. And so, I was like, oh my God, day 2, what have I done? But no, not really, not truly. Did we think, oh, what are we doing here? No.
So how did you dry your clothes after that day?
You sleep in them.
Wet?
You just...
That's my worst
Yeah,
nightmare.
so we were both in dry suits. You have to stay dry. And if something does get damp, there is no way to dry it other than your body. I learned that lesson the hard way on day 2. I dropped one of my gloves, like big, heavy gloves. I dropped it just at the water's edge and getting in my kayak and accidentally dropped it off the side and in the water. I slept with that cold, wet, damp glove for the next 7 days every night to just try and dry the damn thing out.
You didn't tell them where you had your wet glove.
Well, you put it in the warmest place, huh?
Warmest spot, right? Yep.
You know where it is. I had a spare pair of gloves, like I didn't want to use them because they were my emergency pair. If they got wet as well, I was toast.
Yeah, right.
I have to ask, how good was that first hot shower?
Oh, I had 2. I got out and I was like, I'm going back for more.
Oh, I can only imagine. I mean, even if, you've just been camping, camping for a few days, you get that hot shower. But you guys.
Can I ask you, you've both spent a lot of time in nature, and what can we learn from nature and applying survival, conservation, nature principles into our everyday life? What sort of things can we do that you've learned that nature teaches us?
I think what we, as a society, we need to return to a state where we have that connection with nature. If you connect with something, you understand it, truly understand it, there is no way you cannot protect it and look after it and love it.
Which is why documentaries are so important. They bring, if you can't get there, at least you can see it on your television at home and get some form of connection. I mean, David Attenborough, that's what he's been doing his entire life. He's my hero. So, and this is what you guys have done now.
And thankfully, we're truly, truly blessed and absolutely honoured and grateful that we've had the opportunity to go to Antarctica many times and witness it and do this sort of trip. And not everyone can.
Yeah,
and that's a good thing. The place can't take 7 billion people.
I mean, that's sort of the other question I wanted to say, ask you about is there a message about climate change that you would want to share with us, having seen one of the most isolated parts of the planet? Have you seen it change over the years, or have you seen, any difference?
Yeah, we've spent a lot of time now at both ends of the earth in the polar regions, and there's definitive change. You can see it
even in our short,
very short, geological human span of witnessing it. We've seen change, but it's scary. But it's the change we can't see that is
even scarier.
Is even scarier, and I think what we can bring to people with the likes of Attenborough, BBC, and even documentaries like ours is trying to bring a connection to a place. And again, it's the same thing I mentioned before. If people are connected to a place, they'll appreciate it, they'll understand it better, and they'll want to protect it. And Antarctica, whilst we're many miles away, thousands of miles away, it and its ecosystem and the Southern Ocean, they drive the climate for the entire planet. It is the absolute hub of the planet's climatic system.
Yeah,
we're in real threat of upsetting that balance.
Yeah,
and science, we don't really know the consequences, the full extent of the consequences yet.
Do you think risk is a necessary element in building trust or resilience or faith?
It's a great question, Cam. Like, I'm not sure if it's 100% necessary, but I do know from personal experience and from, I guess, a lot of literature is when you extend yourself, extend your comfort zone, put yourself, particularly in these outdoor environments, you learn a lot about yourself that it's almost not possible to learn in the comforts of your home or the whatever. And so I guess for us, being aware of that and embracing that and then doing it together
regularly.
Yeah, like almost consistently. More of that than the safe little cozy environment. It really, I guess, strengthened us and our relationship. Yeah.
For sure.
So I don't know whether it's necessary. Maybe not, because I certainly don't encourage everybody to go and get in a kayak in Antarctica. That's not a safe thing to do. Yeah. And it's not what everybody wants. And so, I guess...
I think risk is different for different people, huh?
Yeah, it's all relative.
Yeah, what we perceive as a kind of a risky thing, some people might perceive as not, or some people might perceive it as pure craziness. We certainly did things on that expedition that some people have gone, oh, that's very risky, and we look at it in a different light. We're very calculated about our risk.
Right. Yeah, 18 months of planning will do that. What's the next adventure?
Well, we've done some adventures in the tropics since that expedition, and that was thoroughly enjoyable. A whole different set of risks that we've never dealt with before. Yeah, you don't have much in your kayak, but...
Geez, there's a lot that can kill you.
There's a lot of stuff.
From crazy coral snakes to pufferfish to crocodiles to...
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Well, there's probably a lot more living. There's probably a lot more living things in the tropics than down on the poles, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Most of them are poisonous or sting or bite or
bigger variation. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. No, well, we're actually in this world since COVID. It's kind of altered our life. Obviously, we haven't been able to travel to do adventures. We haven't been even able to travel to do our profession. We've had to take a slight twist on life, and one of the projects we're working on now is to try and work out how to bring these expedition experiences and the educational outcomes from them, how to bring that to the modern classroom.
Yeah,
great. The kids that don't have the facility to go and explore nature, they're in a city, they're in a rural school that doesn't have much funding for these programs. How can we bring the learning that we've been so lucky to have on expeditions, how can we deliver that to a classroom? Yep. So that's a project we're working on at the moment. Using this documentary as a bit of a base for that.
I love it.
Well, we do a thing called the 2-minute shower, guys.
It's a hot shower.
It is a very hot shower. You can fill those dry suits with hot water.
Yes, love it.
It's like a hot water bottle. Here we go. So we'd like answers from each of you for these questions. Okay. What's your partner's best quality?
He even cleans the toilet bowl.
As she leans in. Woo! That's big. That's big, Sophie.
Wow, amazing.
His ability to love unconditionally.
Perfect.
So Sophie's work ethic and her personal integrity is I haven't seen it at that level in any other human.
Beautiful. What does your perfect day look like?
Prolonged snuggles in bed, followed by chai, and then some kind of adventure, something mountain biking in the bush, whatever it is, as long as it's together. We say that often. We don't care what we're doing or where we are, so long as it's together, and that's the perfect day.
Yeah.
Yeah, we do. We typically do a lot of yoga and meditation together. That's a daily ritual for us. We love it, and like Sophie said, anything outdoors, adventuring together, and all with friends.
Yeah. Nice.
Who's your hero?
Oh. You said it before, Elle, Sir David Attenborough.
Yeah.
I think, or right up there with Jane Goodall.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
This guy too.
For me, it's anyone in this world right now who is stepping outside the comfort zone and pushing society towards change, because the Greta Thunbergs of the world spring to mind, but I don't single her out as a heroine for me or a hero. There's so many thousands of people doing little things in their local communities who they are heroes because they're going against the grain, and I think it's kudos to them.
Well, I hope you put both of you in that basket too. So
we're trying.
Yeah.
Here.
What is something that drives you nuts? Not about each other necessarily, or it could be, but something about the world or something. What's your biggest pet peeve?
Our biggest pet peeve, I think it's joint. I think I speak on behalf of Sophie here. Is single-use plastic.
Holiday destination, tropics or polar regions?
Tropics.
Yeah.
All right. If you could only take one piece of equipment into the wilderness, what is it going to be? One piece. It's probably very hard to answer, seeing as though you're survivalists. There you go.
Ewan's taking Sophie. All
Yeah.
right, what are you taking,
The
Sophie?
multi-tool. Yeah, the ultimate.
The ultimate multi-tool.
Yeah.
All right, I know you guys are reality TV fans.
They're huge. You can tell.
All right, so Naked and Afraid or Survivor?
Oh my gosh.
Just a little bit sick right now.
I have to admit I haven't seen
Either.
That's a fair call. I'll take that answer.
Survivor I saw probably 15 years ago when it first started.
I choose Naked and Afraid because it just sounds.
It sounds
good.
Oh my God, Nate, we've seen a few episodes of Naked and Afraid. It's awful.
Oh, okay. All right.
I do have to say that.
I feel like that in the bathroom every morning.
Yeah. Last question, you two. One word to describe your partner. One word, if possible.
Wow. Who would have thought that'd be so difficult? I don't know about my partner, but us, and I'd say inseparable.
Oh.
Phenomenal.
Oh.
Well, that's a bit cheesy, isn't it?
That's it.
No,
No,
it's
it's
beautiful.
not.
We love
It's
cheese on this
beautiful.
podcast. We're
Yeah.
all about it. There's not enough loving cheese in the world.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's not enough. Oh, that's so beautiful. Thank you, you two. That
Sophie
was-
Ballagh,
Yeah.
Ewan Blyth, thanks so much for being here. Ali and I are wishing you both long, happy, healthy lives, inseparable.
Yes.
Together.
I think you got a lot more years of adventuring, you two.
Thank you both. It's been, just a real pleasure
Real
to
fun.
have it and real fun to chat with you both. Yeah.
Thank
share,
you.
Share,
Thanks.
share our tales and share our life and our love.
Yeah.
This to you both.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
Thank you both. Take good care.
How fabulous. What a life. What an interesting relationship. I mean, from where they started and in a little metal
Russian ship,
box on a
Abby.
Russian ship and
Yeah.
adventuring, on their own in the Antarctica. I mean, what an amazing life.
They were excellent. I would love to do something like that too.
Yeah.
Though my pet peeve is getting cold, so I mean
We could do a tropical adventure.
we could do that.
Yeah, and there's some tough, brave people, those two. So if it felt hard for them, I can't imagine what it would be like for me.
Well, we can dream on that.
Dream.
Thank you for listening to Separate Bathrooms. That was an amazing chat with Ewan Blyth and Sophie Ballagh, his partner, and they've got an amazing documentary. It's called Isolation that you can check out on Vimeo.
And just before we go, we've got an expert coming in, and she's going to tell us all about what we need to know about money, relationships, how to work with it. We're super excited. So if you do have any questions, you can jump on the Facebook. You can send us a message via Instagram.
You're at Daddo.
Yes, I am.
I'm at Cameron Daddo. And you can also use the Facebook page, Separate Bathrooms, as well as the email address in our show notes. Thanks for being here. We'll be back next week with something else.
Thanks for listening, everyone.